What's going on, guys? I am Inbound, and I'm going to start doing some videos trying to show just not just how I work, but more fundamental ideas on what I'm thinking when writing and what things I do around writing to make writing faster, which is a big part of my workflow. Is I like to pre-plan a lot, get everything set up so when I'm writing, I don't have to spend time doing monotonous stuff and I can stay writing. So I'm going to show you my template, and I'm going to be making a Patreon with more deep dives and breakdowns of everything. But this one will probably go up on YouTube for a little bit just to test out and see if I like it. Okay, so this is a blank Ableton project when I open Ableton. It does look advanced, but the big thing to look at is these are pre-made, or not pre-made, but pre-set up contact libraries and different libraries that take a while to load up when you first put it on the channel. So I have them preloaded, so when I open Ableton, it takes like an extra minute to open, but everything's already set up. So when I come to piano, I'm ready to go. When I want to play a guitar, it's set up. Same thing with strings. But you don't need to set it up like this. You can change this out, switch these out. I would highly recommend setting up at least an audio track and your favorite synth. So when I open Ableton, this is what I hear when I click my keyboard. Every time. So the layout I have is 2 audio tracks on top of my sidechain, kick and snare. I will group them later if I want to group change something, but my sidechain, the 2 audio tracks are outside of my sidechain. My take on sidechain before I click on it is it's literally just gain automation. I've seen so many people use compressors, MIDI channels with a click, and then sidechaining or channeling this over to here. At the end of the day, it's volume automation. It will literally take you 5 minutes to set up per track if you do it manually with a utility. Yes, you need to change the snare wave from the other one. Whoop-de-doo. But when you set it, I literally don't usually ever go back to it unless I really want to change it. I think people overthink sidechain. It is literally ducking the kick and the snare from everything else so that way it has room to breathe in your mixdown. That's all it's there for. So with that being said, I'm going to click on this. Before I get into this, what I usually do, let me just grab two, a kick and a snare. I'm sorry if that's loud as fuck. I'm so sorry. And a snare. God damn it, that's loud. There we go. Okay. So, kick snare, right there. Now, these are Max for Live plugins. As I just said, it is basically doing it for me. I'll go back and forth between if I actually use an utility and these, but at the end of the day, it is sweeping your audio to this curve. So I go input, it'll literally show me kick. I go to the next one, I have 2, snare. So now when I put in a cymbals group on the next audio track, which is always usually cymbals. Sorry, wrong button. It is sidechaining, ducking the audio to the kick and snare. What I can also do is literally just show automation. I go to the kick. Just the exact same thing right there. You can even tighten it up a little bit. Let's make it just bombastically fucking. Let's do, yeah. There we go. Just to express what I'm trying to talk about. That took 5 seconds. Like, you don't need to overthink it that much. Okay, next track is the Serum. I love Serum 2. Highly recommend getting Serum 2. Just for the straight fact that you can just fucking start creating super fast, hide that all the shit you don't need. Fucking overdrive. I'm already like, it is such a good synth, and I will be definitely deep diving how I use it. This is definitely not how I use it. Don't judge me too hard. You already have something crazy and insane. The next track, I also switched from that and Phase Plant. I highly recommend Phase Plant. I'm not going to get into the differences between synths, but the Kiloheart stuff I use so much because of this right here. Multipass, what it does, let's change this to, you have, I'm not going to get too deep into it, but you can literally put anything in the mids of your frequency spectrum. Like a reverb, a short reverb, and a distortion before. Bring it down a little bit. And then it just nerding out for a second. What the fuck is that? Like, in 5 seconds, I already got something crazy. Sounds like a lizard. Anyway, next one is the piano. I have just a regular Contact grand piano. Bring it up a little bit more. The Ableton piano works just fine, but if I have it, I'm going to use it. Odin 3 for my guitars. I'm about to get a bass Contact library, so these are literally just samples that I have edited. I know it does not sound the best, but I'm working on that currently. And then we have just a random drum Contact library. It's the free version. I plan on getting the bigger version later, but the hi-hats are, if you can actually hear it, if we bring this up a little bit, is amazing. I love that. Aperture is another Contact library for strings, and so is Albion. I'm not going to get into those right now. But I also want to show the big thing. What I do is also for speed is when I'm making tracks and I want to just start bringing in drums, right? So let me find some drums. Another drum library. Let's see. Perry has some good ones. So let's say I bring that in. I click Command T, audio track right there. What's on my audio track? A utility for either bass mono, monoing the signal, gain automation, or just bringing stuff up or down. It's very useful. An EQ that I can literally start. I have my own default EQ, so it has curves on the ends and expand, and I can just quickly expand the sound if I want to on the ends. You know, it's not made necessarily for mixing. It's made more for, if you have a quick idea, you're able to just manually just move sound, like the frequency spectrum around. I'll go in later and do a deep dive, but when I'm sound designing and I'm writing, I'm going fast, so I want something quick. This is something I'm trying out. It's basically the meter on the side. Oh, it's on this one too. It's basically showing me the numbers of, so if you go to this page, it'll show you that on the writing page. That's all I use it for. I don't really mix by numbers, but it's just good to see when something is clipping that you don't want clipped. But the thing is, I have my audio tracks and my MIDI tracks set up, so every time I load one, it's basically a channel strip like you would have on a mixing desk. Just something quick. It'll probably be changed later, but it's there for speed. Same thing with my MIDI track. Every MIDI track comes with Serum 2, utility, EQ, and the level. You can switch this out. Like if you don't have Serum, the operator in Ableton is really good. The hybrid or the wavetable synthesizer is really good. I do a lot of, the sound design is not in the synth itself. It's the stuff on the outside. And I guarantee you 90% of my stuff is the Ableton stuff. If you want to, I highly recommend the free stuff from Kilohearts. I recommend their payment monthly subscription. I cannot say that enough. But yeah, so this is how I load up my track every single time. I have a reverb and a delay send. I don't really use them that much, but mostly on vocals. They're mostly used in parallel. So that way the dry signal comes through and then I can have a reverb just in the background and then usually sidechain this to the vocal just for space without overdoing it, if that makes sense. The master, don't pay attention to that, is, again, I like to write fast. I got this from Nemda. Nemda is a really good producer. He also has a Patreon, and he breaks down things from the fundamental all the way up to track breakdowns of like the songs that I love the most. Highly recommend it. But one of his videos, he said the best way to write, specifically tear out and heavy dubstep, is to put an OTT on the master, not to master with it on, but to write fast because it glues everything together. So let me just steal something real quick. Let's just say that's our thing. Let's see. So the sidechain is going. Now, that sounds cool, but when I do this, it sounds better. I don't know if you can hear the difference on if you're not listening on headphones, but it makes things sound good. Writing, you want things to sound as good as possible as you're writing, so that way you can focus on the creativity as opposed to there's nothing worse than getting in the zone of like getting deep down into a rabbit hole, and an hour and a half later you realize that you've been messing with the frequency of a kick drum for an hour and a half. Like, writing fast is a big thing for me because I have a bad habit of, once I have a good sound, is refining and not paying attention to the actual musicality in the I like to say of it like playful, not playful, but like having the more fills, having more energy, and then just, oh, this sounds really good, let me just duplicate it and call it a day. I need to definitely work on my variation, but that's just me. But one thing that's helping me is having a really good chain going into writing or sound designing also. Like, I have a bunch of racks that I'll put on right after. That is nothing to change the sound too much, but makes it sound good as I'm making the sound, so that way you're not stuck in hearing nothing, obviously. Hearing that for hours. It just helps writing. What else is on my master? I have an E fab filter, cutting out the sides and cutting a little bit of the tops. You really don't need anything past this. You can't hear it anyway, and it's just taking years of your hearing off. What else? Glue clipper. Use this on every single track, not just to have it at the end of my master, but also my sounds get loud, and if I don't have this, there is nothing stopping it from blasting my headphones and my ears. I use millimeters. I'm not going to open that right now. Voxingo Span to show my frequency spectrum overall. It's free. I highly recommend this as well. Same thing with Yunlin loudness meter. I use this to make sure my songs aren't too loud or too quiet compared to, usually I'll have a reference track in here while I'm getting close to my track being done, just to make sure everything sounds coherent. You know, you want things, you know, you might miss something in the headphones that sounds really good. You go to the car and it sounds like trash, or your sub is fully stereo and it needs to be right down the middle. But we'll get into that stuff later as well. I'm definitely going to do a video over frequency spectrum and mid-side. That is a huge part of my production. But anyway, free as well. Highly recommend it. You don't need to buy the new one or the full version. None necessary. This is how I stream. I'll get into that at some point as well. But that is, and then my utility, usually having it bass mono, which it will bring the sides, the panning of your track, flatten it down to mono, which is, you can hear the exact same thing in both headphones. to a certain frequency. So anything below 120 will be flattened down to both headphones, because you don't need anything in that frequency spectrum to be stereo usually anyway. But yeah, that's basically my template. I have it like this, and I'll have everything in here, and then if there's obviously something that I don't want to sidechain, I will bring it out of here, but usually this is how I go. And then, like, let's say I have, bomb, bomb, bomb. I have everything set up. I have my synth. That is the bad thing about writing in your audio, is if you try and play something while it's not playing in the thing, it's automated down. But that's beside the point. You can just and make your sound and bring it in. But yeah, this is a quick little tutorial on how I have everything set up. If you look over here, I have all of my racks that I'll use. I might be a little OCD and have everything organized by what the sound is. That way I don't have to sift through 700 sounds to get the one gun that I'm looking for. I have all of these guns, growls. I have them separated from anything I find on a tutorial or on a Patreon, and I'll try and not really copy, but see how they make it. I'll have it over here, so that way I have my specific sounds that I make, and then my tutorial sounds are separate, so that way I can kind of look at these as references or use them for the utilities that they have. But thank you for watching. I definitely will be doing more of these, and I will talk to y'all later.